Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl, the Brooke Ashley, and today we are here to discuss The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, Season 2, Reunion Part 2, and baby, let me just say, Miss Lisa Barlow, go on and hold this L. You truly showed how much of a clown you really are. I mean, this part 2 was quite explosive. While I was really irritated, I was just in shock at how delusional somebody can be. You've been caught on national TV talking about your friend like a dog, and the excuses you were coming up with to justify it was crazy. Heather and Whitney, I have some choice words for you both because your obsession with Lisa is beginning to look really disturbing, weird, and just flat out creepy. And you already know that Miss Jenny Wynn added absolutely nothing. But with all that being said, let's just jump right on into this recap because we don't have a minute to spare. So we start off the second part of this reunion right where we left off last week. Lisa and Jen are going at it because of the whole Fresh Wolf event. Why did Lisa invite Whitney and not Jen? Lisa starts getting emotional because she says that her and Jen had gotten into it at the photo shoot and her son Henry heard it and he was upset. So that's why she did not invite Jen to the party. Then she goes on to add that she loves Jen as controversial as Jen is. So of course Jen is upset hearing that and she says, leave all that extra stuff out, like don't call me controversial. So now Jen brings up her and Heather's friendship, and she's like, Heather would never call me controversial. And I was like, well, Heather doesn't have any self-esteem. Heather is that desperate girl who wants to be part of the in crowd so badly. So of course she'll take anybody's abuse just to say that she has a friend. You have not been a good friend to her at all. You've cursed her out on multiple occasions. You've yelled at her. You've called her names. You've mocked her appearance. So please spare me about, well, Heather would never do that to me. Well, girl, let's look at who Heather is. Heather lets anybody talk to her crazy. So, of course she's not going to say anything to you. Now Andy interjects and he's like, well, Lisa, why did you lie about the guest list? So of course Lisa can't tell the truth and she's like, I didn't lie about the guest list. I told the truth, okay? I said that I invited Whitney as an olive branch. So of course Bravo's petty and they play the footage back and we clearly see Lisa at Mary's luncheon saying that her son Jack made the guest list. I'm like, Lisa, just own it. So now my girl Meredith jumps in with a question of her own. And she says, Lisa, when we were at Mary's luncheon, did I not say that everybody does not get invited to everything? So Lisa says, yes, you did say that. Then Meredith goes on to ask, and Lisa, did I not have your back at that luncheon? Lisa says, you did have my back. So then she says, okay, cool, no further questions. Andy makes a joke that Meredith is lining them up. And Meredith says, yes, because I was a lawyer once upon a time. I said, I know that's right. I said, baby, I already knew that Meredith had something up her sleeve when she kept asking Lisa those questions. I said, go ahead. I said, go and get her because the way sis dogged you out in that fake hot mic moment, I would be getting her together at every single turn.
And you're gonna always get it again and again and again.
So now the conversation changes gears and Andy reads a viewer's comment about Lisa talking to Mary privately when they were in Vail. So Lisa says, I went to Mary and I said to her face to face, Mary, I have seen the text messages and I have heard all the stories and read about all the articles about you and Robert Sr. I asked her a lot of questions. I asked her if she smoked weed, if she did drugs, because in her church, you're not allowed to do drugs. And I was thinking, I don't really know any place of worship that condones drug use, but just so funny how Lisa states the obvious and she thinks that it's just such groundbreaking news. Now, Andy makes a shady remark that Lisa seems to have a lot of private conversations with people off camera. So Lisa gets defensive and she's like, I only had 2 conversations off camera, one with Mary, one with Meredith, that's it. A quick side note, since part 2 was mostly about Lisa, I was a little bit tempted to do this entire recap in her voice. Can you imagine? Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl, the Brooke Ashley. I don't think I could even do that for 30 minutes straight. But the idea did cross my mind. So in this next scene, Miss Meredith cleared. I mean, she was clearing in the part 1 reunion too, but I mean, she was really clearing in this second part. But now it's time to discuss the whole drama that went down, for no reason I might add, about when Meredith's father's memorial service happened. At the end of the day, this should have never been a conversation in the first place. How dare you accuse somebody of lying about when they buried their father? Are you insane? So anyhow, Andy starts it off by saying, Meredith, Lisa said this season that she had called you in the middle of your father's memorial service. Meredith says that's not the case whatsoever. That did not happen. Then Meredith continues on by saying that Lisa told her, I know you're with your family. Then she says, why would I answer the phone in the middle of my father's service? So now Lisa interjects and she's just lying through her teeth. She fixes her mouth to say, when I had called Meredith to tell her about Sharif and the internal bleeding, she told me, wait 1 second, I have to step out of my father's memorial service. So now Meredith cuts in and she's like, Lisa, you're lying. I never said that. I was physically in Vail when you called me and my dad in the service was in Aspen. Again, you're lying. I never said that. I did not pick up the phone while I was at his service. Meredith is better than me because I would have told Andy, I'm not going to sit up here and talk about this at length. My father has passed away. I'm not doing this. I already cleared it up that his service was on Monday. I'm not going back and forth with any one of these ladies. I'm not. This is ridiculous that this is even a conversation. And again, Meredith was a lot nicer than me because I would have turned that whole entire stage out. Lisa is a terrible friend and she's a liar. That woman will say anything. And the fact that she doubled down on the lie was even worse. I'm like, girl, you're not embarrassed? You've already been caught. Meredith already proved that you're lying. Like, just quit while you're ahead. Just apologize. So now Andy says to Meredith, I understand why you were so pissed, but had you just said it was on Monday, it would have cleared up a lot of the confusion. But Andy, the point of the matter is, Meredith should not have had to explain herself about when her dad's memorial service was in the first place. These ladies were desperate for a storyline because that's extremely low for you to accuse somebody of lying about that. I'm sorry. Meredith, like I just said, does not have to explain herself to anybody, especially when it comes to her father's passing. But I was happy that Meredith just ended the conversation. She was like, look, Andy, I'm not doing this anymore. It's enough already. The service was on Monday. I was in Vail on Tuesday. Like, I'm not doing this. So let's just cut it. So they're done talking about that. And I was like, thank God. And now Andy dismisses them for their lunch break. So he says to Lisa, now you know when we come back from lunch, we're going to be discussing what happened with you talking about your good friend like that. So you already know that Lisa is quite shook because she's a coward and a liar. So she already knows that Meredith is about to tear her a new asshole. And I'd be scared too if I were her. So now we see Lisa try to talk to Meredith quickly. And Meredith shuts her down. She's like, look, I don't want to hear the excuses from you. Like, girl, get out of my face. Like, I don't want to hear it. I'm going off for lunch. Lisa is visibly hurt and dejected. And now we see her walking back into her trailer and we hear her sobbing. She's blaming production for leaving her hot mic moment in there. She has the nerve to say, you guys knew what you were doing, leaving that in there because now I'm the bad guy. I'm like, Lisa, you can't blame anybody but yourself for that. You guys know that you are being filmed 18 hours out of the day. You knew that when you got in that bathroom and went on that tirade that they were going to catch that. If you want to say all that stuff, you would have said it when production went home. You have nobody else but yourself to blame. I really can't stand how Lisa has this attitude that it's everybody else's fault except hers. Sis, you should not have said that. Take the L on the chin, accept the fact that your friendship is destroyed and most likely will not be coming back because of your own doing. I said if I were production, I would have cursed Lisa clean out like, baby, we're not even going to sit here and do this. What you won't do is blame us for your actions. Absolutely not. So lunchtime is over, everybody is back on the stage, and Andy says, let's talk about Mary. I'm just like, again, Mary is truly that girl, because for her to be the main topic yet again, and she's not here, that's iconic behavior. I'm sorry. So Andy wants to know who in the group has received a nasty text from Mary. Pretty much everybody raises their hand, including Meredith. Meredith says that Mary sent her a mean text because Mary felt like she didn't have her back when Jenny threw the glass at her. Now, Meredith, I have to be fair. I was wondering why you didn't walk over to check on Mary when that whole incident happened too. I was like, okay, well, that's kind of weird. Now, while I probably wouldn't send you a nasty text message, I'd probably call you up because I would want to hear out of your mouth, what was your reasoning for not coming to my aid? I would have been really confused. Like, you say that we're friends, but you see somebody throw something at me and you don't get up and do something? Your husband comes to check on me, not you? Like, what's that about? And I was also surprised that Meredith didn't elaborate more on that. I was expecting to hear her say, and I felt bad for not checking on her, but she just left it at that. I was like, okay then, well, I wonder how Mary and Meredith's friendship is doing right now. It's probably not good. But again, I digress. Then you have Jenny trying to make a joke that Mary never sent her a mean text. I was like, girl, you obviously want Mary's attention in some shape, way, or form. And like I've always said, the most powerful thing you could do when it comes to folks that you don't like is ignore them. Jenny just can't take the fact that a black woman who she feels is beneath her is paying her dust. It eats her up inside that Mary does not like or care for her. Now, this really irritated me when Andy read a viewer question asking why Jenny isn't intimidated by Mary. And so Jenny wants to be all big and bold, talking about, I'm not intimidated by her or anybody. I said, Jenny, you want to sit on this couch being Billy Badass, but on that Instagram Live that you did last month, it was quiet as a church mouse, letting your token black friend speak for you. And Heather's pathetic, goofy is going to say, Jenny, you're probably the reason why Mary didn't come to the reunion. I said, Heather, don't you dare. Please don't ever give Jenny that much credit. Mary gathers y'all up effortlessly. She reads all of y'all down one by one by one. She's not afraid of one of y'all, I can assure you that. So now, of course, since they're talking about Mary, Andy wants to know if Jen, Meredith, and Whitney believe that Mary's church is a cult. Because remember that the three of them did go to her church last season and this season. So Meredith says no. Whitney says that she didn't think so, but now she thinks maybe. And then Jen says, well, all churches are cults to some extent. Then Jen points out that when she visited Mary's church, she noticed that everybody was just fawning over her. And on top of that, the Mother's Day tribute was all about Mary. So she thought that that was kind of strange, and she could see why people think that it's a cult. Now, I'm not going to lie. When that episode aired, I remember thinking to myself, if this is a special program or if it's a Mother's Day tribute, then shouldn't all the mothers in the church be getting praised? It shouldn't just be all about Mary. Like, I know that most churches, they have a Women's Day program, a Mother's Day program, and they have something special for all the moms and all the women in the church. It's not just for the First Lady. So I did think that that was a bit strange, to say the least. And I do feel like her congregation, in a way, does sort of idolize her. But while this conversation was going on, I was just like, not too much, girls. Not too much. You're not about to accuse Mary of all these things when y'all are leaving the Mormon church for the stuff going on in there. So let's not. Now, Andy goes on to ask Whitney if she believes that Mary's church thinks that Mary is God. Whitney all of a sudden starts stuttering and stammering. She's like, well, I really don't know, and I was like, no, Whitney, let's not backpedal. Stand in what you said, because all season long you have been saying that Mary thinks she's God, her church thinks she's God, so don't do this. That is one thing about Heather and Whitney that drive me insane. They talk out both sides of their mouth. They all need to thank God that Mary spared them and did not show up to this reunion. Because the way Mary would have cleared everybody on that stage, they all would have been crying. And did y'all catch Jenny interrupting when she was like, I just don't understand. Why do you have to keep talking about Mary and her church? Is it really that interesting? I said, girl, shut up. You were boring as a doorknob. Nobody cared about your scene, so just be quiet and just sit there. It really eats her up that Mary is still the star of the show, despite the fact that Mary didn't even come to this reunion. Because had Jenny skipped out on this reunion, trust me, they would have talked about her for maybe 2 minutes, because she brought nothing. Jenny is never and will never and has never been that girl. Now, they switch gears in the conversation, and Cameron gets brought up. So now Lisa says, don't bring Cameron up. He was a great person. He was a great friend. Please don't bring him up. He is not here to defend himself. Now, again, we all know that Cameron unfortunately passed away last summer. So now Andy goes on to ask Lisa about her friendship with Cameron, and Lisa says that he was a great friend, and they had been friends for a little over 5 years. She goes on to say that he had passed away from a brain tumor. And once again, my condolences to Cameron's family. Extremely sad. This was a young man who had his whole life ahead of him. But again, my prayers and condolences to the family. And another side note, did you guys notice how once again, Lisa starts crying, but yet no tears come out of her eyes? How does that work? I cry often, so I would like to know, how do I cry with no tears coming out? Because I'm tired of ruining my lashes and my makeup. So somebody can tell me down below in the comments, how do I cry like some of these women? So here's where things get messy. Andy goes on to ask Meredith, why does she think that Lisa wanted Cameron to meet her? So Meredith says, before I answer that question, Lisa, was Cameron on the board of Foster Utah or not? So now Whitney interjects and she says he was not. He wasn't a board member. He was just a supporter. So Lisa's pissed and she says he was in process to becoming a board member, but he was acting like he was one. I'm like, but Lisa, if he wasn't on the board, he wasn't on the board. Like, him being in process to be a board member is not the same thing as being a board member. Just tell the truth. Why is it so hard for you to be honest? Lisa is one of those people, you know what, not even just Lisa, it's a good amount of people on this cast who have a very strange relationship with the truth. Now, when I tell you I screamed when Lisa brought out her investigative glasses along with a binder, I said, if I see one more binder at a reunion, then I know something. I don't want to see a binder anymore. We all remember Bindergate with Potomac season 5, and that whole entire season was demonic. So Meredith is in her lawyer bag, and she says, Lisa, I have another question for you. Did Cameron really mortgage his home for $300,000? So here's Lisa all confused, and she's talking about, well, I might have gotten the numbers mixed up. I'm not sure it was for $300,000, but like he did have a very expensive house at the time of his passing. So now Meredith is pissed. She calls Lisa out for lying, and she says, Lisa, you told me off camera that Cameron did not mortgage his home for $300,000 and that he gave Mary only 10% of that amount. So you're lying. Lisa's trying to deflect. She's talking loud, talking about, again, I might have had the numbers mixed up. I'm not sure. But again, he definitely did give Mary some money, even though I completely lied and made $300,000 up. Now, let me just say, when this episode aired, I remember being very skeptical of Cameron giving Mary $300,000. I personally feel like Mary might be charismatic to her church members, but I don't think she was that charismatic to anybody where they're going to empty out their wallets and give her over $250,000. Also, if Cameron had given her that amount, don't you think that somebody somewhere would have revealed this to the blogs? I don't know. I just didn't believe it. I felt like Lisa was pulling it out of her ass when she said it. So now Meredith says to Lisa, the fact that you didn't have the common decency or the common sense to retract your story about Cameron and this $300,000 story is beyond me. Like, you really said this out loud on national TV. So now Whitney interjects and says, yeah, and the fact that you let me run with the story is crazy too. I said, Whitney, here's what we're not going to do. Don't you dare blame Lisa for your actions. You were a willing participant. You're another one on this cast who doesn't have a storyline, and you get off on being a mini Lisa. You are just as messy, you're an instigator, you're a pot stirrer, and you're a liar. And you'll do anything to push a story ahead because, again, what storyline did you have on your own this season? Nothing. We did not care about Wild Rose Beauty. We didn't care about you and Justin trying to get your sex life back. And we definitely didn't want to see that. Okay? Let's be very clear. I am so sick of Whitney acting like she's a little girl. And that little baby voice that she's always doing. Like, girl, talk like a normal adult. Grow up. So Lisa is trying to prove that she's innocent, and she brings out some receipts that she has. These are text messages between her and Cameron. She gives them to Andy to read, and now Whitney's saying, don't read them, Andy. They're probably doctored. Now, I want to touch on another point that I had made earlier on in this recap. When I said that Heather and Whitney have a fixation on Lisa. I understand you not liking Lisa, but when it got to the point where they kept interrupting Andy to prove that Lisa was lying, I was like, let Andy be the host and ask the questions to Lisa. I just get the impression that Heather and Whitney really have this weird obsession with Lisa. They want to be her friend so badly, but the fact that Lisa does not care for them really sends them over the edge. And because of that, they want to destroy Lisa, but at the same time, they're vying for her acceptance and validation. So now Whitney tells Andy that she has many text messages between her and Cameron, and how he told her that he was ready to tell his truth and come clean about Mary. So Whitney goes on to say that Cameron told her that everybody in the church believes that Mary is God, and not only that, that he and Mary did have a relationship. Andy goes on to ask, was it sexual? So of course Heather has to jump in, and she's like, yes, it was sexual. I was like, Heather, he wasn't asking you, he was asking Whitney, like, shut up. Heather really was doing the most for some camera time because, again, she didn't have a lot going on this season, so there wasn't much to talk about regarding her. So Whitney says, no, I didn't ask all that. So now Andy goes on to ask if they were having an affair. And now Whitney says, yes, but he was young and he felt like he was taken advantage of. I was like, first of all, why do y'all feel the need to talk about this affair that she was having with Cameron? This man is no longer here to speak for himself or defend himself. It just felt like it was in poor taste for Whitney to reveal this. I was like, girl, you're just so thirsty for a moment. And Whitney, not too much trying to air out Mary and this alleged affair, because the way you and your husband got together, y'all were both cheating on your spouses now, weren't you? So keep it real cute trying to air out somebody else. So now Andy reads another question from a viewer asking if it's true about there being a support group for ex-members of Mary's church. Lisa says that that is true. While I'm not going to sit here and act like Mary doesn't have skeletons in her closet as well, I'm going to need for Miss Whitney to focus on herself. Whitney has done her share of dirt as well. She needs to worry about her husband and his charges, worry about how she's going to sell that skincare, and worry about how she's going to pay for the mortgage. So now Andy pivots to the next topic, and we are finally discussing the Lisa and Meredith drama.
Thank you, God. Thank you. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you.
So he starts it off by asking Jen her opinion. He wants to know, why was Jen constantly saying throughout the season that Meredith was not being a good friend to Lisa? So Jen says she noticed that Lisa was salty about Meredith befriending Mary. Now, it's comical that anybody is asking Jen Shah about what makes a great friend, because we see how she treats her friends. She's always screaming and yelling at people, okay? That's the wrong person to give her opinion on anybody and their friendship. Lisa is denying that she was ever salty about Mary and Meredith being friends. And now, of course, Heather has to jump in, and she says, yes, you were. You were very salty about it. That's why you called your friend a piece of garbage behind closed doors. So Lisa's upset, and she's like, do not put words in my mouth, okay? Don't put words in my mouth. I was not salty about Mary and Meredith. The reason why I was offended was because Meredith said that she was offended by me. So here comes Meredith, ready to clear once again, and she says, first of all, what started your tirade was the fact that you were upset that I didn't have your back when you and Mary got into it at the table. So now Andy brings up Lisa's friendship with Jen and how that put a wedge in between Lisa and Meredith, and rightfully so. Let me just say this quickly. Meredith had every right to feel a type of way at Lisa befriending her enemy. You have this woman talking about my child, and you're sitting up there going out for drinks with her, laughing with her, breaking bread with her. Like, that's unacceptable. And I know I might be in the minority, but when it comes to friends and enemies, I feel very strongly about, if my friend or loved one has some beef with somebody else, I'm not befriending their enemy. And I would hope that they wouldn't do the same to me. I'm very much, I have your back. If they're giving you a hard time, I'm not speaking to them. I'm not saying hello to them. Why would I befriend somebody who hates you? It makes no sense. And I take issue with folks who feel like, oh, well, I'm going to play neutral. I'll be friends with everybody. Like, no, it doesn't work. How can you feel right knowing that you're hanging around somebody who hates your friend? It just doesn't make sense to me. So now Meredith brings up the Shabbat dinner and she starts crying. When I tell you my heart really went out for Meredith, I just lost my father as well. So when she started crying, I felt her pain. Meredith reveals that 3 days before her father passed away, Lisa didn't call her, didn't check on her. She had to reach out to Lisa. Then she goes on to say how 2 days after her dad passed away, Lisa still didn't check on her. She had to call Lisa again. So Lisa is denying it. She's like, no, I didn't. I reached out to you. I'm a great friend. No, I called you. I could not imagine my closest friends not reaching out to me when my dad passed. All my friends were there. They were a text away, they were a call away, a flight away. Lisa would have been cut off. And it had me thinking like, well, damn, Lisa, you didn't even call your friend. So did you even send some flowers over? Did you send a fruit basket over? Did you send some dinner over? Probably not. But like I've said, Lisa is very self-centered, very shallow, and very self-absorbed. And if it's not all about her and what she has going on, she really can't be bothered. She is only a friend in the good times only, and I want all of them to realize that. So now Andy interjects to tell Lisa that her excuses aren't landing and she's making herself look even worse. So now he says, enough of that, let's jump ahead to the hot mic moment, which was definitely one of the most explosive moments this season. So child, you already know that Andy Cohen is petty. He is reading verbatim every single thing that Lisa said on the cue cards, and Lisa is mortified. Now you already know that Meredith is about to tear Miss Lisa Barlow up. She says, if that's how you feel about me, fine. Then she goes on to add that entire scene took her an hour to get through. Then she goes on to add that she was sick to her stomach. And then she goes on to ask Lisa, you talked about my whole family. How do you think my kids felt hearing that? So of course, Lisa cannot own up to anything that she does. She's blaming everybody under the sun for her actions. She goes on to say, were my words awful? 100% yes. Do I regret it? Absolutely. But it was a buildup. Like, it was just a whole lot of stuff going on. I felt like all last year you were rejecting me. So that's why I just lashed out. I said, Lisa, stop. All you need to be saying is, Meredith, I am sorry. You need to send her a gift, beg for her forgiveness. But for you to say that it was a buildup and all this other stuff is absolute BS. You said how you truly felt. You were talking about Seth always changing jobs, them not owning a house, how they're renting, calling your friend a whore, a piece of shit, a piece of trash, garbage, her kids. You meant everything that you said. And if I were Meredith, I'd be rejecting your apology because this wasn't really an apology. I didn't get any sincerity from it. It was very much, well, a here, damn, like, I've been caught, so here you go. Andy wants to get Whitney's opinion on what she thinks about Lisa and Meredith's friendship crumbling. And we already know the answer to that question. Whitney and Heather are getting enjoyment and glee out of seeing their friendship dissolve. They have always been quite envious of Lisa and Meredith being friends, and they are very happy to see it destroyed. So here goes Lisa trying to play victim to circumstances that she created. She turns to Meredith and says, so you really want to see a 10-year friendship crumble like this because of one moment? You want to see us be destroyed? Like, do you want me to slit my wrists or something? Like, what do you want from me? It's like everybody is beating up on me and I just can't take it. And once again, that's the wrong response to have. You have deeply hurt your friend. You have said some stuff that there's no going back from. So your apology needs to be a bit more sincere, don't you think? And you trying to make yourself the victim, absolutely not, Lisa. So Andy's tired of the back and forth, and he just says, look, where do you guys go from here? Lisa says that she's genuinely sorry and how everybody has fits of rage. I said, not like that. If I have a fit of rage and I talk poorly like that about somebody, it's about somebody that I don't like. I would never have a fit of rage and speak poorly about a friend that I love. So you're on your own with that one. You can see that Meredith is visibly rattled, and she says, look, I just saw the episode 48 hours ago. I don't know where I stand. I would hate to throw a 10-year friendship out the window, but at the same time, I am devastated and sick to my stomach at the fact that she would say something so evil about me and my family. So I don't know, it's up in the air. Meredith, again, is a lot nicer than I am because I would have flat out told Andy, Lisa, everybody else on that couch, I have nothing else to say to Lisa. We are no longer friends. And I couldn't even say that I wish her well. It would just be, we are no longer friends. That's all I got. I think that Lisa thought that that hot mic moment was going to blow over. She was not expecting all this backlash. She wasn't expecting the loss of a friendship. And I really feel like she's surprised that they aired it. Because the fact that she was in the bathroom with the door closed and they only caught the audio, she probably assumed, well, I'm not in the scene, so obviously they're not going to use it. But they used it, and now she's the one who's sitting up there crying and making excuses for her own words. But we see part 2 ending with Andy addressing some rumors about Meredith and Jen allegedly dating the same man. Meredith and Jen both deny it. Honestly, it's stale tea because Meredith already said that she and Seth were dating other people when they were separated. So I don't know why people keep beating a dead horse. And then we see Andy giving them a 10-minute break before the husbands take their seats. And child, Lisa tries to make amends with Meredith. And she's like, again, Meredith, I am so sorry, and I didn't mean to hurt you. Meredith says, Lisa, I don't want to hear this. You hurt my entire family by what you said. Lisa then has the gall to say that the reason why she called Meredith and her family everything but children of God was because she heard from somebody else that Meredith was saying that her house was shitty. So Meredith says, girl, what? So you ripped me to shreds over something that you heard. Like, you know what, sis? Get the F out of my face because I'm about to go off. I was like, Lisa, you know how crazy you sound? You're going off on hearsay instead of calling your friend up and asking her outright, hey girl, did you say that my house was shitty? So instead of doing that, you decide, let me trash her and her family on national TV. Got it. But y'all, that was part 2. When I tell you I cannot wait for this final part because I am sick and tired of watching SLC. This has to be the longest season in Housewives history. We did not need 21 episodes plus a 3-part reunion. But part 2, for the most part, was very explosive. It was entertaining. I will say that. But guys, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. And as always, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you all later. Bye.